Hi everybody, this is Pastor Amy from the Park Church Co-op in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. It's Thursday, April 19th, and this is my third weekly video newsletter. I'm excited to bring you some of the events that are coming up and a little teaser for my sermon on Sunday. This week we have worship at 11 a.m. We have a new children's activity area so that families can feel like they're more a part of our worship service, and so we invite you to come and check that out. We also have story time in the library with Randy at 2 p.m. We have the farmers market on Sunday from 10 to 4 with fresh produce available and textile recycling. There's No Lights, No Liquor on Tuesday night, and on Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m., we invite you to come and share our compost bins. After work, come and drop by your compostables and use our brown bins out in front of the church. This week on Sunday is Good Shepherd Sunday. It's the fourth Sunday after Easter. And it's called Good Shepherd Sunday because Jesus, in the reading from the Bible for the day, Jesus refers to himself as the Good Shepherd. Some of these biblical images are difficult for us to relate to, especially as city people, when the Bible refers to things that are more agrarian or agricultural in nature, kind of like shepherds. I mean, what do city people know about shepherds? When we picture them in our mind, we see people in like long robes with something covering their head and a long stick with a hook on the end. But I've actually seen real shepherds. I've spent some time in the Middle East, in the Holy Land, with Palestinian shepherds. And I can tell you that shepherds are often kids as young as 9 years old who are given the responsibility for taking the sheep out to graze, even in cities where they might be taking them to graze among the scrub grass that's growing up in the abandoned lots at the side of the road. And I've seen these kids there in their hoodie sweatshirts browsing Facebook while they kind of care for the sheep. I remember this one morning when I was staying in a village where people lived in tents on their land, and they'd get up early in the morning to take the sheep out before the heat of the day really came on. And I had gotten up with the families to participate in this morning ritual. And so I watched as the men went and got the sheep out of the pen, and they were all gathered there in a big flock, and they would start walking out to the field to take them to pasture. And as I was standing there next to the tent, all of a sudden I heard this these desperate cries from this little baby lamb that had just been born like days before. She had gotten lost and separated from the rest of the flock, and she couldn't see where the shepherds had gone. She couldn't see the other sheep because she was facing the side of the tent, and so she was crying desperately for someone to help her. So one of the men from the family saw this happen, and he told this little boy who was 6 years old, whose name was Hamoudi, to take care of this lamb, to take the lamb back to the sheep pen. And so I'll never get the image of out of my head of like this 6-year-old Hamoudi trying to pick up, scooping up this little lamb in his arms, a lamb that was just about as big as he was, and sort of toddling over to the sheep pen to bring this little lamb back to safety. Good shepherds, I learned from that experience that good shepherds care for the sheep partly because their lives are tied up with these animals. That the care for these animals is really core to even the survival of the people who tend them. That they rely on them for milk and for meat and for marketable goods. And so, if they even losing one sheep could be a significant loss for a family. And they live and have the rhythm of their lives tied up with their sheep. Jesus, in the passage that we'll read on Sunday, says that he's the good shepherd, partly because he lays down his life for the sheep. It's a powerful image. It's maybe an extreme image because it's hard to imagine an ordinary human shepherd laying down their life for one of their sheep, that if a wolf were to come or some other threat, that they would lay down their life for the sheep. But that's what Jesus, he speaks about this metaphor of the good shepherd. That's what the good shepherd does for the sheep. There's also this intimacy that Jesus expresses between the shepherd and the sheep. And if it isn't clear by now, the metaphor of the shepherd and the sheep is that, God in some ways is our shepherd and we are the sheep, or perhaps the sheeple. We are the ones that are called to follow and sort of come together as a community and follow God's lead in the world. But Jesus speaks with this intimacy about this relationship between the Good Shepherd and us who are the sheep, that he knows us by name, that we somehow know him. And this sense that, even from my experience with real shepherds or shepherds in the world, that, our lives or abundant life is tied up somehow in our relationship with the Good Shepherd. But the other thing that Jesus says in this text that I think is really important, and especially for the work that we do here at the Park Church Co-op, offering this wide, expansive welcome to people, whether they're Christian or from other traditions or no faith tradition at all, that we welcome all people, is that Jesus says in the text that there are other sheep that aren't yet gathered, and he knows who they are, and we don't need to worry about that we don't need to judge people who's in or who's out, or who's worthy of love and who's not. That our job is just to share love, to share God's love with those that we know and meet. And so for some of us, if we're used to going to church, if that's part of our practice, maybe it's inviting a friend to join us and to experience that loving community. Or if we're prayers, maybe it's offering to pray with someone that we know is having a hard time. If we're neither of those things, but we're just genuine, good people, then, maybe it's just being there with a friend as they express their joys and their struggles and offering a word of hope and support and encouragement. That's what we try to do here as we build community at the Park Church Co-op. It's what we try and do for our neighbors in Greenpoint. And so I invite you to be part of that, to be part of our community by volunteering or by worshiping. And if you want to talk more about how we can come together and lift each other up and practice sharing mutual love together, I invite you to come on Sunday mornings, be part of the coffee hour afterwards, where we talk and we share with each other from our week, or even be part of the conversation here online. I would love to hear from you through the comments or through email. I hope this has been a valuable conversation starter for you, and I look forward to hearing more from you. God's peace be with you.